go talk about what we're talking about tonight?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go.
All right. So one of the things that started this week, actually, and I wasn't expecting to be talking about this company ever on our show, but it's kind of newsworthy. So the NWA, the National Wrestling Alliance, we have seen a spot of them on AEW the last couple of months, specifically with Thunder Rosa and Serena Deeb and the NWA Women's Championship. Yep. Well, now NWA has a new weekly show on YouTube called NWA Shockwave. Mm-hmm. They premiered the first episode on Tuesday. It was a little over 30 minutes long. They had 3 matches, a number of pre-recorded segments, and really the matches were pre-recorded too. But it was just, now NWA says they're going to have a weekly show. It's going to run concurrent with AEW Dark, I guess. I don't know.
It's on Tuesday on YouTube.
Yeah, it's on Tuesday on YouTube.
Which Dark is. So it was odd choice of picking, but, it's Monday Night Raw really starts the wrestling week, so Tuesday is always a good day to have wrestling.
Yeah.
Although it's getting a little crowded on Tuesdays. But, it was just something new. We saw the NWA champion Nick Aldis defend his title against Mike Kanellis, a.k.a. Mike Bennett.
Yeah.
Depending on the audience, they might know him as Mike Kanellis, because that's mainstream WWE. And then we saw a couple other matches too. I don't remember the competitors that well. But we're just something different. Like, now that's on YouTube, like, it's readily accessible in a way that I think the NWA hasn't been in the last, 30 years?
Well, they were doing fine before the pandemic hit. The NWA Power was actually, they were.
Yeah, but was it on TV?
No, it was on YouTube as well.
Okay.
And they were gaining actually quite a bit following with that. It was actually doing pretty well because they were doing what.
Well, that's also we started the show after NWA Power stopped airing, so I'm a little more cognizant now of what's going on outside of WWE and AEW now that we started doing this show in a way that I wasn't before, because now I need to be professional. Yeah. But it was an all right show.
Yeah,
I know James, you were pretty excited about it.
Yeah. Oh, you talking about Shockwave? Yeah. I watched it. It was a good show. I
liked that it was 30 minutes.
It was 30 minutes. Yeah, it was 30 minutes. It was boom, boom, boom. It was promos. It was promos, matches. Mm-hmm. Promos, matches. That's it. And the announcers kind of put the story. You didn't have to go backstage and have to do that. The announcers themselves were kind of forwarding the story or putting seeds for the story or giving background on what's going on. So, and you as an audience, if you don't know what's going on, you can catch up from the announcers. And you see the match, because that's how you got, they were going with, there's 3 matches. I believe the first one was, damn it, I remember. Now I'm trying to remember.
I don't remember, and that's okay, because we're not really.
Well, I know the ladies. There was the first match. I don't remember the first match. It was Jordan. It was one of the young guys I've seen before.
Yeah,
I've seen before. I can't remember his name, though.
It's all right. We don't
I know
need to
who
do
you're talking
review.
about. One thing I'd like to make note of, just to kind of piggyback off of what you guys are talking about, this, I mentioned this in our little chat beforehand, but like, one of the things that excites me about this, because I've mentioned on previous shows, like, as we were starting to see more stuff from the NWA kind of being showcased in some platform, the Primetime Live weekly pay-per-views, which they've taken kind of a holiday hiatus due to the pandemic again becoming more of an issue to continue putting shows out, but they were doing a weekly pay-per-view called Primetime Live, which was technically a United Wrestling Network production. But they were working with the NWA to present stuff like the NWA Women's Championship and the NWA World's Championship. And you have, like, when you watch Shockwave, like this first episode of Shockwave, you'll see
I saw
Primetime Live, because it's at the same studio that they've been filming these, which it's like a nice personal touch to me, because I happen to know that studio is in Long Beach, which, like, that's my city, so it's nice to like see that little bit there. And so, like, the guy who's kind of in charge of production there, David Marquez, I've chatted with him before, and I've seen like his championship wrestling from Hollywood programming and like some other work that he's done before, and it's been a lot of fun to kind of see that side of it, and also like recognize like this is what they're able to do with the resources that they have.
Yeah.
Because to kind of go back to James's point,
UWN.
when NWA had power on YouTube, they had it very much as kind of an old style, like an old school studio wrestling style, with where you have the audience and you have like nice little studio sets for like interviews and stuff. They don't necessarily have that in place because of everything going on, but they still have something, and it is nice to see these matches being presented. For example, the women's match that James was talking about was Camille.
Heather Moreno.
Yeah. Camille. Yeah, Heather Monroe versus Camille. Camille, who's been like in the early days of like the rebranding.
Leon said she's been undefeated for 2 years.
Yeah, like in the early days of the return of NWA programming, she was like associated with Nick Aldis, but she's
like a tank.
She has since done a lot more of her own like in-ring stuff.
She's built like a tank, man. I saw her. I was like,
so
she's like a smaller version. She's like China, but doesn't have China's size.
Right.
She's just compact.
Yeah, she has her the definition though on her. Just gosh. I'm not even flex because I don't.
And see, and it's funny like, and then we're talking about all this, and we're not even touching on like the World's Championship match, which was a fun main event for, between Nick Aldis and Mike Bennett, and it was really cool. I especially like the story they were building up to this because of Mike's like situation, like trying to deal with these different like hardships he's kind of been dealing with, primarily like in the years that he was essentially in WWE but not quite doing anything, and also his struggles that he was dealing with in that time, and coming back out of that to find himself being able to challenge for what's essentially meant to be one of the top prizes in the industry. So you have this nice story being built up, and I love the fact that they were able to do that story through like a very simple, in a good way, a very simplified wrestling program that was kept to 30 minutes and was able to focus more on the in-ring action and fairly simplistic and not overly convoluted or complicated storytelling.
No, it was a good match. It was a good storytelling match. Two good wrestlers. Yeah. Nick Aldis is, like I said, the national treasure. I thought it was, like I said, it was well done. They had the interactions with, Maria, and then Camille comes out, and then all that. So, yeah, I thought it was a great match. He came off, and it did. He came off at the defender ending. Bennett may have lost. Spoilers. But he came out looking better in it.
Right.
And he looked good in the loss. That's how you're supposed to do it. It was meant to reestablish him as a threat. He lost, but he didn't come off looking bad off it. So hey, it worked and everything. That's how you're supposed to do it. So yeah, I'm glad to see Shockwave. I'm looking forward for the next episode. And I know they're probably a little bit behind. This might be material that is, I don't know, a month or two behind and everything in that aspect, because they were talking about Thunder Rosa as champion, and we know Serena Deeb's NWA champion right now. So, that's the only thing that dated it. So I was just
that actually, I want to touch on that because that bothered me a little bit.
Yeah, me too.
Because it's something you could have fixed with production.
Yeah, I think that.
So it looked a little sloppy on the NWA's part, and just I don't know. Maybe it's just because we're so used to now with the products of WWE and AEW, and even the other shows. The fact that they really hit you over the head about this all being pre-taped really bothered me from a presentation standpoint. Like they didn't do entrances; they just went,
they did some.
They did entrances as if you were like recapping, an episode.
Right. Well,
they just kind of walked out, and it was super weird. Like maybe that's fun. Maybe it's not really a big deal, but for me, it was super weird. And I wanted to touch upon that with the way the production. I'm hoping that they treat this like a pilot episode, and that they tighten up production a little bit. It's pre-recorded.
They could have done. They could have done a re-editing.
I mean, if things have changed, they gotta get on top of that, right? But they shouldn't have been talking about Thunder Rosa being the champion because we all know that she's not right now.
Right. Yeah, I think that was missed. I don't know.
So I mean, that was definitely a production misstep, and I think the presentation of this being pre-recorded, and they're like, to me, it's being hit over the head. Like, I want to watch good wrestling. I don't want to feel like that this is scripted. And the way that they present it makes it feel like it's scripted. Like, I know it's scripted. You know, I'm a wrestling fan. I get it.
Yeah.
But I don't want to feel like it's scripted. Like, it's not the wrestler's fault. I think this is all in production in this case.
I think the mistake was
they need to present it differently.
Okay, I think as a counterpoint, I would have to. I'm thinking I would. I'll need to check back later. But if this was a situation where these matches were like, because I think it depends on when these matches were taped. Like, I kind of see. I see your point, but I mean, like, because if it's one of the, if it's a situation where they're essentially rebroadcasting matches that have already happened that people are already aware of.
I think what happens, they taped a bunch of content in one night that's to do for Shockwave over like the next 5-6 weeks.
Well, that's possible. But I'm just saying, like, I guess that's what I'm saying.
That's the way it looks.
It depends on the context of the original matches, I think. But I do otherwise agree with you. Like, you know, there are certain things about the production side that need to be a little tightened up. Like, it's little things like addressing someone as a champion when they haven't been for some time. That's like the main. That's like the only real.
And you know, the NWA is not a big company. I don't expect.
Right.
No, but I agree with.
It's just more of you know, let's just have some attention to detail.
Right.
I think. Yeah, and that's really. It's nothing on the wrestlers. The matches were good.
Yeah.
You know, I was into them. Like I said, Camille to me was a standout character because of the way she looks and her presentation.
She looks,
and
she didn't do anything, and she didn't try to do anything fancy.
No, but I mean, she's scary,
big scary tank.
For me as a viewer, as a wrestler, I like scary women, right? Because they're different.
Yeah.
You know,
but
your eyes are always drawn to them when they're in the ring and they're on TV. So I like that. Like, I think the from the matches were good, and the characters they decided to showcase were smart. Like picking Mike Bennett, I thought was actually a stroke of genius because he's familiar with, you know, now that he was on WWE, right? For me as a WWE guy and as a mainstream wrestling guy, I was like, oh, well, I know who this is. Whereas I don't necessarily know who Nick Aldis is. I actually do, but you know, if you're trying to grow your fan base, you know, I think, you know, one of the things NWA can do more of that is to find more people like Mike Bennett who were on WA TV, who are now no longer WWE, and showcase them. Like, what's Heath Slater doing right now? Get him on a show. Yeah. I don't know who's going to be in the next Shockwaves, but I thought that was a masterstroke of putting the show together, making Mike Bennett be your first main eventer, because it made it feel a little bit more legit. You know, in terms of like star power, it's not just random people. Oh, this is ex-WWE guy wrestling. This must be a big deal, right? Because WWE wanted him at some point. Plus, Maria Kanellis, she's even more famous than Mike Bennett is.
She is.
So that gave it credibility, I think, that another challenger couldn't have. So I think that was very smart by them as well. And
I agree. And this ended right here is I agree with you on the production.
I do want to get to the next thing, but
because
I thought that was.
I felt, and I was like you, because I felt like they were treating it as this is as now, but then I hit the commentary where you can clearly tell they're talking about champions. It's been, you know,
and we just went over that.
So so it's I agree with you on that. But overall, let's just to wrap it up. Overall, I thought it was great presentation. I hopefully they can get tighter. I'll watch again, because one is on YouTube and I can watch anytime. And I like NWA and I like the people there. So I thought it was well done. So we'll move forward to the next one.
It's why I like AEW Dark a lot, because it's on YouTube. Like, oh, okay, I can watch it, you know, at break while I'm at work.
Sure, you can watch it. You don't have to be right there.
I don't have to. It's not appointment television, you know, like Raw and Dynamite and Smackdown are.
Yeah.
It doesn't. So that's nice.
So I just to get my one last thing, and just saying, like, I think if nothing else, I think we're definitely in agreement then. Like, aside from like production things, which are, you know, fairly minor, overall the fact that they even given us this program, and the program itself has good wrestling and good storytelling, that's great. So overall definitely great to have NWA back in some way, shape, or form, besides just semi-randomly showing women's title matches on